welcome to Crystal One-on-One. We happen to be at Le Chateau Brasserie Belge, and today I'm excited because I'm talking to someone I've known for years that I worked with back in the day, Sharpe Ssewali. Welcome!
Thank you, Crystal.
How are you?
I'm great, thank you. It's wonderful to see you, wonderful to be here.
It's wonderful to see you too.
Yeah, you're one of those people that we sort of bump into each other every
couple of years.
Yeah, every couple of years. And then we catch up and then we're off in different directions.
I feel you've been like a busy bee, bouncing around in so many different things.
Yeah.
Which of course is exciting.
Yeah, it is
very exciting.
Yeah.
But you were just telling me that you were up at 4 a.m. today. Is that normal?
Yes, it is normal. Today I was up at 5.
Okay.
But I usually am up at 4 a.m. It's kind of like my wake up time.
Is that like when the creative juices are flowing, or you just?
Yes, and sometimes no. I wake up to pray.
Yes.
I wake up to write. I wake up to listen to things. It's like the best time of the day. You get some hours into the day before the day starts.
Because I imagine it's all quiet.
Yeah.
And you get that, there's almost like a peace in the air.
Yeah.
Or some of us are busy snoozing.
Yeah.
Struggling to get up at 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So getting up so early, has that always been the tradition with you? I mean, is this a new thing?
No, it's always been. It was modeled for me.
Okay.
My father was an early to bed, early to rise kind of person. Dinner was always at 8 o'clock, without fail.
So you always had dinner on the table together?
Yeah. Well, not necessarily at the table together, but dinner was 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And whatever you did after that, that was your business. But it was dinner at 8, and without much to do because we didn't have TV and stuff. I mean, you sort of are left to your devices. Either you listen to music or you just go to sleep, or read a book or go to sleep.
All right.
And usually for me, it was just go to sleep
Okay.
after listening to some music. And then up early. I would be the first in school, always, like early in the morning, like 7 o'clock. I'm there.
You're already there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your dad, you said he was a medical doctor?
My dad was a medical doctor, yes.
And your mom?
My mom was an artist and a designer. She did a lot of, she designed clothes. She did a lot of bridal stuff.
Oh.
But at university, she did a degree in art.
Okay.
Industrial art, and she was a sculptor, and she did stuff with wood. She did stuff with clay. Yeah.
Okay. Did she ever have her work? I mean, like at exhibitions?
Yeah, she's got. I don't know about exhibitions, but she's got some work. She had some work at some point that adorned some of the embassies that Uganda had in other countries, like in the U.S., New York.
Okay.
In Belgium, I think Uganda had an embassy there, and some of her work was on the walls at the embassy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did any of you take on after her?
In
terms of the artsy sculptures?
I think not like that. But I did take after her because I'm an artist.
Yes,
I wound up. I started out being a scientist, though. I was very into medicine, and because that was my dad and that was his influence, so I was very much into medicine and sciences. I loved chemistry and biology specifically. And growing up, I wanted to be an astronaut, believe it or not.
That's a valid dream.
It is a valid dream, I guess, a dream that every child has, especially if you watch Star Wars and things like that. So I grew up on Star Wars and E.T. and stuff like that. So growing up in Star Wars, I obviously wanted to become an astronaut and see the stars and go to the moon and stuff like that. And then I did wind up going to aviation academy, and I thought at some point, yes, this is now the beginning of my pursuit of astronautics.
Wait. Okay, we need to go back. We need to rewind. We're already at aviation. First, tell me about you in school as a child.
I was a troublemaker, but not the kind of troublemaker that got into trouble. You know what I mean? I made, smart little comments in class.
Oh, okay.
But at the same time, I would be the teacher's favorite because, I did reasonably well with some of my favorite classes, like biology and English and maybe chemistry. There are subjects that I just really didn't like agriculture and stuff. This is high school and things like that you know, to this day I kind of look back and think, why did I do that? Yeah.
So you clearly think that maybe the education system was to some degree flawed? Do you feel it's not yet tailored
no, it's
right?
Not. Our education system is flawed, very much. I remember, I think it was about 2014, I met a gentleman in Nairobi, and he was explaining to me the difference of learning versus being taught.
Oh, okay.
And he explained, it said that being taught is what mostly happens for us here in Africa and most of the African schools and many other schools around the world.
So is that like they just
Children
throw
are
information
they
at
just
you?
throw information at you, and you sort of have to cram this stuff and learn it for the sake of passing exams. Learning, on the other hand, is when you pursue something that you're very passionate about. And so when you're in a state of learning, you grow in leaps and bounds, as opposed to a person who's just being taught something that they don't really care for. You know, they just, it gets into their heads, they know it, but after a few years, it's not even useful in their lives at all. So
okay, well, you were on radio.
Yes, I did radio for like a year.
Director.
Yeah.
You had an acting stint as well.
Yes, on Sense8 I did.
Did any of this come out in school? Were you the child who was at the front of the choir?
I did.
Or in the choir?
In the choir, no. In school, no. Actually, like being in choir wasn't considered very cool, right? So
you were the cool kid.
Yeah. I don't think I was the cool kid.
Oh, you wanted to be.
But I wanted to be. Some people sitting on the outside looking in thought I was cool because I was the kid that did martial arts. And you know, I didn't take my music classes. Actually, interestingly enough, I was doing piano, and I had this American teacher who was teaching me piano, and I was great at it. You know, I had a really, really good ear. Sometimes when I was stuck reading something, she'd sing a note and my finger would just travel to the note.
Oh.
That's how, you know, I think that I had something.
Okay.
And then I got introduced to martial arts, and that was the end of my music classes. I just, instead of going to music classes, I always wound up at the gym or at we used to work out at a badminton court. So I always wound up at the badminton court, and the instructor would come through and give us our lesson and everything. And then after that, we'd jog home and continue after that, because there's a friend of mine, a bunch of friends of mine. We'd continue after that, and we'd work out. Believe it or not, it was a crazy 6 hours every day. You know.
What?
So you do 2 hours after school, then you jog home, you know, and then you do another 4 hours. And you get home at 11. I just don't know.
That sounds crazy, right?
It is crazy. I don't even know how we achieved that. But I think I'm also a bit of I have a bit of an addictive personality.
So are you still addicted to
the martial
fitness,
arts?
working out, martial arts?
No, not so much. But I find that anything that I take on in life, I have like an immersive experience. I learn everything about it. I learn its cousin. I learn about its second cousin twice removed kind of thing. So now I'm into film. I sort of have an understanding. I'm proficient at editing, and I'm proficient enough at writing. So I'm a writer, director, and editor. But I also have an understanding of how visual effects works and how the other various departments work, from costume to art department and stuff.
Okay.
So
where did you go to school?
I started out at what is now called ISU, and then Nakasera Primary School. Then I went to Bakar College, and then Mengo Senior School, and then after that I wound up at Aviation Academy, and then I studied film in London.
Doesn't seem like a very straight path.
No, it's not.
Dad was a medical doctor.
Yes.
You were interested in medicine. Due to his influence.
Yeah.
So how did you end up in Aviation Academy?
When I went to A-level,
Yeah.
This
was Mango?
Yeah, they wouldn't give me physics because I didn't do it really well.
Oh.
So they wouldn't give me physics. So that was the end of my pursuit of medicine. Around the second or third term of my senior six education, I began to think, what's the next best? I don't even think that I thought that, but it's just like aviation. I had a friend who went to aviation academy, and I thought, that's it.
Okay.
And my mind closed to any opportunity at Makerere University. My mom wanted me to go and maybe get a doctorate in food science and technology. I said, I am not going to get a doctorate just for the sake of getting a doctorate, just for the sake of having a DR in front of my name. If I'm going to be a DR, it has to be in medicine. So I ditched that and started pursuing aviation.
Okay.
In fact, as soon as I finished my A-level exams, a week later, I was in class at Aviation Academy.
Okay, and your dad, was he on board with this decision? Because it sounds like you made your decision. And you're like, okay, parents, this is what I'm going to do.
I was very independent-minded. And I think at this point in my life, my parents had come to terms with the fact that I did what I wanted to do. Respectfully.
You weren't the oldest then?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't.
Clearly, because the oldest is the one who's like, you have to do this and you have to do that.
Yeah. No, I was the youngest. But my parents were liberal enough to understand, to let me pursue that which I'm passionate about.
Okay.
Because I think, even though my mom never articulated it, but she understood that which you're passionate about is what you're most likely going to be successful at.
Yes, So you were saying that you are the youngest.
For a very long time, I was the last born.
Okay.
I knew I was the last born.
And then things changed.
And then things changed. Yes.
Okay. How many siblings though?
Gosh, it's a whole tribe. There were 14 of us.
Wow.
And I think there's 11 of us now.
14 from your mom and your dad?
No.
Oh, okay. I didn't say your mom is a strong woman.
My mom only had 2 of us. And my younger sister I'm my mother's firstborn. And my younger sister lives in London.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, did you grow up with your siblings, all of you together?
No. By the time I was born, a lot of them were away from home, were grown.
Okay.
Some were married. So I was the child of my father's old age, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the younger children are normally given a lot more of the luxury of being able to make their choices.
Yeah.
And parents are a lot more lenient. So if you're saying like your older siblings were like even married and all of that,
yeah.
By the time you came along, your dad was probably like, okay,
yeah,
let's see what happens.
I have nieces and nephews who are older than me. I'm like,
okay.
Yeah.
So back to Aviation Academy.
Yes.
Where did you go?
I went to the East African Aviation Academy, which is also known as Soroti Flying School.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did a few. I did 40 hours of flying there.
Okay.
At some point, it just got too expensive.
Okay.
And yeah.
And then.
And then I didn't complete my course.
Yes.
And then I just went into music.
So you were part of First Love?
Yes.
For many years.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get into that? Because you said yes, you tried the piano. Clearly you had a gift for music.
Yeah.
But then you kind of moved on. How did you find your way back?
I was involved a lot in church.
Okay.
We're doing a lot of working with young people and stuff. Camps, singing, part of groups and stuff like that. And then Marilyn Skinner put together this group of young people, and I was one of them. And the first song we ever wrote was called First Love, and that's where we get our name from. And that's how it happened.
Okay.
Really.
When was this? Do you remember the year?
Gosh, that was a long time ago.
Like 20 years ago?
It was probably.
Yeah.
was a long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
And so who are these other members?
Fred Walusimbi, Nicholas Mayanja, the late Paul Kim, and James Damba, and David Okalebo. And there was a gentleman called Jeremy Miles Hamia as well.
So that was 6 people, was it?
That was 6 people, but the group sort of like morphed. Like there was an original number of guys, we were all 4, and then someone joined us, and then someone left, and then then we ended up being 5 of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So first love.
Yes.
What are your favorite memories?
Woo! Many. I think my favorite memories are also the most challenging ones, the most challenging times.
Okay.
I mean, we would wake up sometimes and decide that we were going to South Africa, and we had a few bucks between us, like maybe $2,000 or $3,000 between us. And
with no financing outside?
With no other financing outside.
Okay.
And we a lot of our financing we got along the way sometimes, through places that we ministered at. People would give us an offering that would get us to the next place. People would buy our music, and things like that. So through buying our music, through giving us offerings, it would help us get to the next place. I mean, but the offerings sometimes weren't always. We're a large group of people, and sometimes it didn't always
translate.
Translate.
Yeah.
But it was we always made it through somehow. We always made it through.
So were you all really passionate about music?
Yeah, we were. But more than that, we were passionate about winning souls for Christ. That is what drove us. And so we would scale any mountain to make sure that we stood in front of people and ministered and won souls for Christ. That was our driving passion.
Okay, because for a lot of groups, you find that the members have different reasons why they're part of the group or where they want to go. Yeah. And then there are a lot of breakups. Yeah. Because people, have different, I don't want to say motives, but like dreams eventually. Yeah. So how long were you together?
We're still together now.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we have a studio that we run. Again, was part of our passion was to leave something that younger people would legacy that younger people would follow, and also just a place where, because when we were coming up as artists, it was hard to find a place to do your music. A lot of the studios were more interested in doing commercials for radio and stuff. So when you went into the studio, you recorded an album of 10, maybe 12 songs in a week. So that meant Monday to Sunday, and it was expensive. It still is. Artistry is expensive. So, but you recorded an album in 7 days. You laid down the vocals and everything, and you didn't have time to finesse the music or to redo stuff if it didn't sound good. And so we determined that we were going to make it different for other people, to allow the process of making music, because music is like wine. It gets better as it grows older. And if you just conceive it today and spit it out tomorrow, chances are it doesn't have that essence that it should have, that comes with maturity of a song and you understanding it a little more. And so we determined that is something we wanted to provide for artists who are younger than we are. And so hence the studio.
Okay.
But we stayed together because we had one common goal, and one, it was to minister and to leave a legacy. And we found ourselves facing all kinds of challenges together. I mean, like when we finally went to South Africa, first of all, the way it happened was a miracle. That was the first time we got our visa in absentia. We were in Kenya, and our passports were brought back to Uganda, and we got our visas without ever appearing at the South African embassy.
And they're pretty strict with their visas.
They're pretty strict.
Yeah.
So we got our visas, but when we flew into South Africa, I think we had $20 between 5 guys. And one calling card which had $1 on it, an MCI card, it had $1 on it. And then we arrived in South Africa to find that the person who invited us then abandoned us.
I'm sorry. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Interesting times.
He abandoned us. He picked us up from the airport and drove us to a place called Hillbrow. Now Hillbrow is like being in South Central LA or being in at Skid Row, right? Or I don't know, like one of the it's at the time was one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Johannesburg. So he drives us to Hillbrow. He just takes us to this office and says, "Yeah, you're sleeping here tonight." There's like 3 or 4 plastic chairs in there, metal like table or something. The lights are not on. There is no bathroom. The bathroom is like next door or something. And we have only $20 left on us.
You didn't have like even a mattress or?
Nope. He disappeared until 2 o'clock the next morning. 12 o'clock the next day. Actually, he didn't even show up. He sent a driver to come pick us up, to take us to a guest house. And then we get to the guest house, and the guest house is like, "Who sent you?" We say, "So-and-so sent us." To say, if you don't have money to pay for this place yet, we are not letting you in. So we had our MCI card, and we call up a friend who we'd met earlier, like a few years earlier in Nairobi. And we're like, "Yo, listen, we're in town. We're going to need some help." They're like, "Don't worry.
This is 5 of you, right?
This is 5 of us.
5 of you.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Like, "Don't worry, y'all. I got you sorted." And he sends us a driver. He sends us groceries and everything, pays for our guest house. And our time in South Africa starts like that. And we do ministry when we need to do it. And we go on to Cape Town, and we bump into yet another guy who fleeces us. At which point we'd gotten some
growing pains.
I know, right? We'd gotten some support, gotten some money, and this guy was supposed to do all our gigs and bookings and stuff, and he fleeces us. I mean,
Sorry.
You know, we're sleeping in the first night we spent in a hotel, and then like, "Yeah, come over to my house." The second night we were living in a place called Milnerton. But Milnerton, the way Milnerton is divided is like Milnerton, Sunset Beach, and then you cross the street. And it's Milnerton where you have these, you know, like
the shanty.
gentrified neighborhoods. And he puts us in what they call a Wendy house in his backyard. A Wendy house is a tool shed, a wooden tool shed.
Yes.
And when we are in Cape Town, this time of year was pretty cold and pretty breezy. You know, the winds that blow through Cape Town, they're very...
Yes, they have a winter.
Yeah. So at night, the Wendy house is shaking like it's gonna, you know, like it's gonna come out from its foundations. And there's sand everywhere. There's sand in our ears, sand in our eyes, sand in the nose, everywhere. You know.
At that point where you're like, "Okay, we want to go home."
At that point, people are pretty ticked off, pretty peeved.
Yeah.
You know, Paul is just having a conniption, and we're poking fun at each other and saying, "Man, you know, better humble, man, you better humble, be humble." And
not having it.
Paul's not having it. I would say that I think we hit some form of depression as well. And I would walk from Milnerton east, I think. I don't remember exactly, but I'd walk from Milnerton and go to Sunset Beach, the other Milnerton, which was about maybe 5 miles away. So I remember I'd walk barefoot, just go all the other way to chill out at the beach. You know, so you have something pleasant in front of you, you know, so you forget all the craziness that's going on back there.
So how long were you in South Africa with all this happening?
We were in South Africa for about 6 weeks.
Wow.
But it was crazy.
Wow. So
and then we traveled by road all the way back to Kampala. Yeah.
How long was that, a week?
It was long. It was long.
Using what, buses?
Buses, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Those buses.
It was buses. It must have been like more like 10 days then.
Yeah, it was a long time. It was a long time. It was fun. But and these are some of my favorite times. I don't think that I could ever exchange that for anything, like anything in life. I can't. Those were the moments that formed us. The moments.
Those are the experiences that can make or break.
Yeah,
huh?
Exactly.
So they clearly made you stronger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you talked about like how you all had one common goal, which was to minister.
Yeah.
And you were in church even when you were younger. Mm-hmm. Which one of your parents got you into church?
My mom was born again.
Your mom.
So she said she used to pray for me a lot. Even when I was a child, and yeah, so, but I just gravitated to church, I guess, because there were fun activities at the time, music, and all sorts of things. It kept me busy and kept me out of trouble, so I stayed there.
So you found like a home there as well?
Yeah, I did find a home because I was a loner.
Okay.
I was a loner, so church was family. Yeah.
Now you ended up on radio at Sanyu FM.
Yes.
How did you end up at Sanyu FM?
Oh wow! It was it was still it was during those years of discovering myself, I guess.
Yes.
I did some work with radio at Power FM, and I did some work with radio at Impact FM and Radio 1. I'd sit in sometimes for presenters and everything. At some point, I just got tired of doing that. I was like, I need somebody to give me like a proper job. And I used to do like voiceovers and stuff. I need somebody to give me a proper job. So I remember somebody at Radio 1 at the time was New Nash at Sanyu FM. And they were like, I'll give Nash a call. So they gave Nash a call. They sent me over, and Nash gave me a voice test. And the next thing I knew, I got a call back, and I was in studio with you.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Well,
and
weren't
that
there
lasted
very long though, just a year.
Yeah.
And then you chose to leave because you were doing the drive.
I was doing the drive.
Yes, at the time. And then actually
drive.
Mitch came on after you.
Yes.
So why did you leave?
I had to travel.
Yeah.
I had to travel with First Love. That was the time that we were going to South Africa. And I think this is a good time to apologize to Sanyu FM for leaving my posts. I was meant to be away a month, and I didn't come back.
Exactly. It was
I just disappeared.
But life is like that sometimes.
That was a very immature thing of me to do.
Well,
and
when you were leaving, did you know that you were going to be gone for quite some time?
I had a sneaking suspicion, a paralyzing suspicion. It was one of those things when you know that God's called you to do something and you really aren't like down for it. You're like, but life just got comfortable. Why are you asking me to leave all this and just go out there where it's crazy? I don't know nothing that's going on. I need to be in a comfortable place.
Okay.
But then something happened that shook me, and I knew that okay, I better quit while I'm still ahead. But then again, like I said, the way I went about it wasn't the coolest thing in the world. So,
well, hey,
1,000 apologies.
Everything happens for a reason, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we know he did a stint on radio for a year.
Yeah.
First Love, how it happened, and the adventures you had.
Yeah.
How did you end up in film?
Film. I think that secretly, I've always had a love affair with story.
Okay.
If I may call it that. When I was like 14 years old, I watched my first 500 films.
Okay.
500.
500?
Yes.
How did you keep track? I mean, did you have a goal?
I had a list.
You had a list?
Yes, I wrote down
At
every
14?
film that I watched. Yeah. I wrote
Do you
down
still have
every
that
film.
list?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I watched.
Where were you getting these movies from?
Well, cinema, video halls, friends' places. I just would go and watch movies all day.
What was the trigger? What pushed you to that? Did you watch one movie and you were like, I have to go?
For me, it was no. At the time, I was a bit of a loner, so I guess for me it was a form of escape from, find something to do, but also a form of escapism, really. Okay. I guess.
Was there anything going on in your life at the time that was rough?
Yeah, there was some stuff going on, at home, and it just wasn't my favorite place to be. So I'd do my chores and leave, and come back right at curfew time. Okay. So I watched a lot of movies during that time. Okay. And my dad was livid. He was like, "You ain't done nothing with your vacation. All you did was watch films, and you even have a list to prove it."
I'm surprised by the list, because I know a lot of us were watching movies, but I don't think anyone was making a list.
Yeah, that's what made him super mad, that I actually had a list.
Okay. Flash forward.
Yeah, flash forward to, several years in the future, and I'm back home from a U.S. tour, and one of my friends is getting married, and that was the height of the war in northern Uganda, and I think that year the Lord's Resistance Army had attacked a camp at Balonyo, and they had massacred about 200 people, and they'd done all sorts of gruesome things. They'd cut people up, grabbed babies and smashed them against trees and chopped people up and cooked them in pots, and I remember reading that headline and weeping uncontrollably. And I decided there and then that somebody had to tell this story. It doesn't matter how many years in the future it is, 10, 20, 30 years, someone's going to tell that story. And I determined that I was going to start writing. I was going to learn how to write. So I went back to the States that year. I was in California. I picked up a book on how to write screenplays. And there was a story that I read in the newspapers and started to build something around that story. And then I got a letter from the person whose story I was writing, like, "I will sue you." And I'm like, oh, I was in London at this time.
Oh my!
And I got a cease and desist letter from his lawyer, and so I began to fashion. It was a great story to start with, and I'd hoped to get the rights to it. So I started to write something of my own.
Okay. So at this time, were you touring as First Love?
Yes, I was touring as First Love. And so I start to write. At the same time, I had a fascination for editing. I used to wonder, how do pictures end up on that screen? I mean, you shoot it on the camera, and then what? So then I bought my first Mac. I bought a PC, it was an HP, and I tried to load all this editing software on it, and it just kept crashing, and I just threw it out, and I bought a Mac.
Okay.
My first
Something
Mac.
that could actually handle it.
Once you go Mac, you never go back. So I got a Mac, and bought my first bootleg version of Final Cut Pro. And started editing, and got video lessons from Larry Jordan. Hello, this is Larry Jordan. He has a beautifully deep voice. He's a funny man. And the lessons were just great, listening to and learning. So I learned like that because I was very passionate about it. And my first project was I came back to Uganda that year, and somebody threw 26 hours of material at me, and they said, we want 5 minutes out of it. And and we wanted the next 2 days, and I spent sleepless nights, but I got the 5 minutes. And that's how I learned to edit on the fly.
Was this from a wedding?
No, it wasn't a wedding. It was an artist that come to Uganda from Australia, and she traveled around the country. And a friend of mine, who ended up being a cameraman that I worked with for a couple of years, had shot everything that she'd done documentary style, and so they wanted a 5-minute docu out of it, and I spent literally like 2 nights without sleeping and getting it done. And that was the first project that I did. And then around about that time, I'd spent like 3 years without writing. And then I sent like 10 pages of this. I was back in the States at the time. Then I looked up agencies, like I looked up the William Morris Agency and CAA and all these other literary agents and stuff. And obviously they say on their websites, you know, do not send unsolicited material and stuff. I was like, I am going to send you unsolicited emails. So I sent them 10 pages of my script.
Okay.
And somebody looked at it and they loved it. And they were like, could you please send us the rest? So I start writing like crazy and like, you know, spit out 75 pages of it, which is the length of, you know, an animated feature. And I send it to them and they say, okay, looks good, but I think we're going to pass. But for me, that was... But
that was like planting a seed, though.
It planted a seed, and it was a great inspiration to me, because I was like, if the William Morris Agency
saw something,
then I'm definitely on the right track. This is how sometimes God will just put little, you know, things to encourage you along the way. And so that year, I later just went down to LA and spent the rest of the year just doing nothing but writing. So I spent like, I don't know, about 4 or 5 months doing nothing but writing and finished it. And then I went back to London, and then I bumped into this producer and I was like, here's my script, read it. I'd been asking God for a producer, somebody to teach me the ropes and stuff. And I wanted to make the film, so I said, here's my script, read it. And they were like, oh, this is such a wonderful script, but you gotta direct it. I'm like, I am not a director, I'm a writer.
And I don't even know the first thing about directing.
Don't worry, you know, you have a team around you, and you know, all you gotta do is just tell the actors what to do, and you know, you'll be fine. Don't worry about camera angles, don't worry about cinematography, don't worry about this. That's why you have a team. And I was like, nope, I ain't doing it. Her name is Lillian Kibedi, and she insisted. And so she signed me up for a course at Rain Dance.
Okay.
And the next thing I know, she's like, I'm signing you up for this course at Rain Dance. I don't remember where you got the money. Either she confiscated some of my money or she paid some of her money for the course. She was like, you're doing it. And she literally broke into my life and said, what is this you're watching? This is trash. And she was like, here's a list of 400 movies that you're going to watch, and every single day you're going to give me a breakdown of what you thought about the film. You're going to give me an essay about this film. What is the film about? Why was it made? What's the theme? Da 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 da. She threw out all my Grey's Anatomy and all my, I don't know, Scandal and everything. She was like, you are not watching this stuff anymore.
Okay.
You're watching only grade A A pictures, you know, no B movies, A movies. So it was time to go back to the silent films and to the Citizen Kanes and to, you know, The Godfather and all that stuff. And for me, it was like,
I'm sure
at the
there was
time,
a bit of Marlon Brando in there.
Exactly, yeah. For me, at the time, it was like torture. Like, I want Grey's Anatomy. and I'd be in the studio sometimes, stealing a look at Grey's Anatomy. I was like, I gotta catch up with Grey's.
So your first, was it your first documentary that started winning awards? Just tell us about that one.
It was a short film.
It was a short film?
Yes.
Okay.
That I did with the illustrious Anne Kansime. She's a comedian, but what most people don't know is that she's a great actor as well.
A very good actress, yeah.
She's a very good actor. She's a great drama actor. Dramacta.
Yeah.
And we cast her for this short film that FIDA funded on domestic violence, and a friend of mine and I wrote. She wrote the story. Her name's Susanna Gashoka, and I wrote the screenplay for it. And we went out and shot it, and we then made the film, and it was sitting around, and then someone, what's her name? Her name's Kushe. She said to me, "Oh, there's a film festival." That was the first Uganda Film Festival, and she was like, "Why don't you submit this film?" And she's also in the film as the girl that eats sugarcane, and everybody just loves that little scene over there. And she said, "Why don't you submit this film to the film festival?" And I thought, okay, cool. So I submitted it, and it won an award that year. It got a special mention for sound design, and stuff. And then I met a gentleman from Nigeria that year who was also a curator of the Leap International Film Festival in Nigeria. And when we submitted it, it ended up being the official selection for the festival, and then it won a slew of awards, like 3 or 4 of them, for Best Actor and Best Director, Best Producer, and something else. And then we submitted it again to the Afro-European Film Festival here in Uganda, and I think it was the headlining film that year, and it also won at the Pearl International Film Festival, won for Best Director or Best Film. Best short film.
Were you expecting any of that, or it was just?
I wasn't.
Took you by surprise.
It took us.
Did you know that it was a good film? That you had done something good?
As every artist is, we critique ourselves the hardest.
Yeah.
I see all the mistakes. The camera should have moved that way, but that was a mistake. And we should have locked that shot off so that that transition is perfect. But and we see the mistakes. So I never thought much of it until Kushe came to me and said, "You should submit it." I wasn't thinking about it at all.
Okay.
Yeah, and so
exciting times. Huh?
Yeah. And then went on just to do other stuff. I've just really been doing loads of commercials and loads of documentaries for people like UNICEF and so forth. Commercials in Nairobi and Ethiopia and so forth.
And back to film, you worked on 27 Guns?
Yes, back to film. 27 Guns was my first feature film, co-directed with Natasha Museveni Karujide. And it's the other way around. It's important. And she
did she get in touch with you, or
her people got in touch with me? Jean Kuhirwa was a friend, and I'd met her a few years ago, and then we bumped into each other again that same year, which was 2006.
Okay.
Yes.
Was it daunting taking on a movie about our president?
It was very daunting because you're making a film about people who are still alive. And so you are afraid that people are going to walk into the cinema and watch something and be like, that's not true, or, so you want to make the film, you want to do them proud. So it was very daunting. But thankfully we had, Natasha, of course, she knew this story intimately because it's about her father and about the men that her father led. And so we had some access to her father. We had access to some of the men that came through. Afande Pekos Kutesa came through, and he told us some of these stories.
Oh, okay.
And he's a hilarious man. He saw it from a completely different angle, and I love his giggle, his mischievous giggle. He talk about something and you're looking at it and you're like, this is serious, but he's giggling, And then we had a wonderful team, a great cinematographer called Musta.
It was an all Ugandan team.
It was mostly a Ugandan team. We had some Kenyans who we baptized into Uganda, but a great Kenyan team. Paul and Saul from Nairobi, and Tobias, and their team of grips. The grips department was mostly comprised of Kenyans.
Okay.
And they were an amazing team. Great people to work with.
That must have been very exciting.
It was exciting.
First feature film, do you think you'll do more?
Yes, I'll do more. I'm in the middle of preparing for another one sometime next year.
Well, there you go.
In the middle of preparing for my own material that I've been writing for a while. But this was our first, and it was a great stepping stone and it taught us and showed us that we actually have the mettle in us to do this. Because when you're shooting commercials, it's kind of like running a 100-meter dash, right?
Yeah.
And when you're shooting a feature film, that is the marathon. You're doing a 20-kilometer marathon or a triathlon, and you gotta to wake up on day 57 and still be as passionate and still be as articulate or still care about what is in the frame and care about the performance. To see that we got up and still cared
and still delivered.
It was great to see that. Because it's easy to burn out after 4 days, a week. They're like, yeah, I'm over it already.
You have to hang in there.
Yeah.
Have you ever been married?
No.
Okay.
No, I haven't.
Is there a reason?
My life is a reason. I mean, look at my life. I've been like, pew, 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 pew. I'm in LA. I'm in London. Oh, look, I'm in Switzerland. Oh, look, I'm in Uganda, Nairobi, South Africa, Kampala. That's been my life. I have met a couple of people, and it hasn't worked out. For various reasons.
Okay.
Yeah, but I hope someday.
Do you eventually see yourself?
Yeah, I do.
Settling down? Do you want a family?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be nice. That would be nice to have little Sharplets.
Little Sharplets.
Little Ssewali-lings. I don't know.
Clearly he's thought about this. I have a feeling you've like doodled about it somewhere. Somehow.
I'm a doodler, but I haven't doodled about that. I doodle about all sorts of other things.
Now, you talked about your passion for working out and martial arts.
Yeah.
And there I am watching Sense8, and there's this scene, and I'm like, wait, what? I know this person.
Yeah.
You were cast in the series.
Yeah. It was one of those things. They'd been looking for somebody, my body type, for a while.
Okay.
And
this was in the States.
This was in Nairobi.
In Nairobi?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they couldn't find the person. And they'd been looking for about 6 months, 7 months, actually.
Really?
And yeah, but I guess it's one of those things. When it's yours, right? And so the casting agent, casting director, her name's Nini Washira, walks into a concert hall and bumps into a friend of mine called Tina Nzuki, and she's like, Tina, I'm looking for a man that doesn't exist in Kenya. Like, he must be like this, be like that, be like that. Tina's like, I know just the guy. His name is Sharpe Ssewali, and Tina is, I'm walking. It's a Sunday. I'm walking around at the Junction Mall, and I get a text message from Tina. She's like, so and so is gonna call you. This is their number. They want to call you about something, a casting opportunity, and she tells me to give them a call or something. So I do give Nini a call, and she told me, asked me to show up the next day for an audition at the National Theatre in Nairobi, and I show up. I sucked. My audition was terrible. I was nervous. I don't know, and I was really nervous. And
so you've never really acted before?
Well, I had
you've been on stage enough times.
I've done not theater but stage plays in church and stuff. But I'm always nervous. Even all the times that I've been on stage, I'm always super nervous before I break out into the performance, and then I calm down. And so I was nervous the whole way because it's just a room of like 4 or 5 people, and all eyes are on you, right? So at the time I was also in the middle of casting for something that I was working on, and when my audition went south, or at least I felt it went south, I walked out, told Nini, well, if I don't get the part, I'm okay. At least now I know how to audition people. it's been a great learning lesson.
Ooh, look at that.
And yeah, so I walk away, and about a week later or 5 days later, I get a call, and I've been asked to come in for, for a second audition. I get a call back. That's the call back. Everybody's, like, yes, come in for the second one. And then I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting ready for the call back, and I get a text message at 5 in the morning saying, the director is not in town. They've canceled the call back. They're going to choose from the tape, from the tapes that we've all shot. And then the next day I get a call like, okay, dude, you got the part.
So clearly it wasn't as bad as you thought.
Right? I squealed like a little girl. I was like, Nini, excuse me, while I scream, while a little girl right now. Squee! Like, okay, go on. Says, okay, so I'm going to give your number to the second AD, and all these people will call you, and da-da-da. And then it was a mad rush after that. You got to come in for fitting. It was an interesting experience. Then you got to go meet the stunts coordinators and stuff, because, so they took me through my stunts and stuff. And being that I'd done this before, it was muscle memory. And it just took me a second, and I was back in form and stuff, and because I did my own stunts. And I get to say that.
He did his own stunts?
I get to say that. I did my own stunts.
Look at you.
Yeah. But it was hectic. It was very, very hectic. And of course, I got to meet Lana Wachowski and Tom Tykwer. Tom is the director of Cloud Atlas, and Lana is the director of The Matrix and several other films, Jupiter Ascending, and
wow.
And like, it's Lana, it's Tom, and they're right there, and
you got to learn a lot as well.
Yeah, it was. I was there to learn. You know how it is. They say that God lets you visit, that which you will possess later on. So I was there on a little visit. I got to see how these big sets are run, and stuff, and it was exhausting, but it was fulfilling. It was great fun
as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Any advice to any young Ugandan filmmakers?
Study your craft. That's my advice. Study your craft. Study its relatives, its close relatives. If you want to be a director, you must understand what it is you understand what the director of photography does. Understand what the writer does. Understand what the costume designer does, because understand what the actor does. If you're writing things, don't write stuff that is too big for your budget. If you want to be a writer, and if you want to be a director, understand every single one of those departments.
Yeah.
Study your craft. I think the thing that we suffer the most from in Uganda and a lot in Africa is that and I think especially this generation that we're in, we want things to happen fast. The Word of God says, study to show yourself approved, and also it's just a system of the world. You go to school to be a medical doctor, but yet somehow we expect that I'll just wake up one day and be a director without studying it. I'll be a filmmaker without studying it, because you just yell action and cut. It's more than that.
Yeah, much more.
You have to understand a certain degree of psychology. If you want to be a great director, understand how people work, how people talk, how conflict happens.
Because you have to be able to
conflict?
Bring out what
Exactly.
you need from each character or actor. Or
Yeah. So study your craft. That's the advice that I'd give. It's not going to happen overnight. If it does, well, then bless God.
Good for you.
Good for you. But understand that you're probably going to work twice as hard to stay at that number one place, because what gets you there doesn't necessarily keep you there.
Yeah.
So study your craft. Study.
Well, thank you so much for
You're
coming
welcome.
on this show.
Thank
It was
you.
a pleasure catching up.
It was lovely to catch up with you.
All right.
Yeah. Can I have my coffee now?
Yes, please.
Coffee.